Hello, y'all. How are you doing? I could never hold a microphone and talk at the same time. So welcome to our next to last Writers at Home of the season. We're really excited today to be offering Tina Barr's book launch for her new book of poetry. Before we get to that, though, there's a commercial break. The Great Smokies Writing Program will be offering summer classes, and there'll be a class by Patty Dye, Organizing Your Writing Life. Marjorie Klein is offering a fiction class. Heather Newton, the novelist, is offering a fiction workshop. Eric Steiniger, who I just hear has been hired on at Mars Hill for a full-time job, will be teaching poetry for us. And Molly Wallen will be teaching a great creative nonfiction writing class entitled He Said, She Said, How to Disambiguate Your Creative Nonfiction Writing. That sounds cool to me. Maybe she could disambiguate my life. We're here I'm really excited that we're able to do this for Tina. Tina is a stellar teacher, a wonderful person, and a very fine writer. So we're so excited to be doing this. Her last volume of poetry, which we're here to celebrate, is Kaleidoscope, and that's just out from Iris Press. It's garnered praise from many writers, including former North Carolina Poet Laureate Joseph Badanti, who says, Tina Barr's fascinating new volume of poems, Kaleidoscope, is a dazzle of words within worlds, worlds within words, the tessellated, often hallucinatory vortices of memory. This is a poet at the height of her powers. Tina's first book, The Gathering Eye, won the Tupelo Press Editors Award. Her chapbooks, all winners of national competitions, are At Dusk on Nesky. How do you say that?
Hey, that's in Maine. You're far south. You can pronounce it any
well,
way
all right. Nasque Point, The Fugitive Eye, and Redland, Blackland. She's received fellowships from the NEA, the Tennessee's Arts Commission, the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, and the McDowell Colony. Her poems have been published in Arts and Letters, American Poetry Review, Boulevard, Crab Orchard Review, Denver Quarterly, the Mississippi Review. There's a lot of them, and other journals and anthologies. She's formerly directed the creative writing program at Rhodes College, where she was Charles R. Glover Chair of English Studies. And I'm proud to say she's a Great Smokies Writing Program teacher. So please welcome Tina.
Can you make sure this is going to work?
Okay. Thanks. How's that? Okay. Just wave in the back if you can't hear me for some reason. You can't hear me.
Okay, wait. Who can't hear?
Over in the coffee area. The coffee L's.
All right, try that.
How's that? Is that better? Yes. Is that better? Oh, great. Okay. All right. And if I hiss, because there's just somehow, let me know. Well, anyway. Okay. So it seems really appropriate that I'm in the children's section because you get a free tiny mini kaleidoscope when I sign your book. Also, I have actually sort of pre-signed, because I like to do these elaborate, decorations on the page where I sign. So they're up there, but still come up to me and I can say to Jan, love forever, Tina, or whatever. Okay. All right, so I have a lot of thanking to do. I guess I have to thank Ingalls. I've never had they're not really corporately sponsoring me, but we can pretend. I've never had a corporate sponsor before. Anyway, But I do want to thank Virginia and Lauren of Malaprops for arranging this wine and cheese reception. And I'm going to read 7 poems, 20 to 25 minutes. Oh, okay, the mic. All right, here we go. And let's see. What did I wanted to thank a couple more people. I wanted to thank Joyce Blackwarts, who's right there. And she is a fantastic watercolorist. The watercolor called Monarch Kaleidoscope on the front of this is nothing compared with the secret work that she has squirreled away, I just want to tell you. There are poems by Henry Darger, about Henry Darger's work in this book, and she's just as good or better. Anyway, then I want to thank my friend Bonnie Soniat, who read the manuscript and gave me fabulous suggestions on the poems and ordering the book itself. And of course, I want to thank Tommy again and the Great Smokies program. I love teaching in it. I love my students, many of whom are here, and I just want to tell you, as we all know, it's always a dream to get a book published. So if my dream can come true, so can yours. So I'm going to read poems today that are on the theme or reflect the theme, the title of the book, Kaleidoscope. This book was actually written over the last decade. There are a handful of poems that were written after I moved to North Carolina. But the majority of them were written when I lived in Memphis. And, let's see, okay. I think I write about literal reality, right? But I'm told that that's not necessarily always true. Anyway, in this first poem, I put into the chamber, you know, the turning chamber with the little doohickeys or jewels or floral distortions at the end. Various objects, memories, and elements, imaginative. In the kaleidoscope's chamber, as I turn the chambered end, the mirrors seem to stretch the colors as jewels shift, circling them into wheels of unfolding flowers. The mind feeds on pattern, incites us to find it. The chamber fills with purple, blue bruises. The open jaw of a dead father multiplies the tight eyes of liars. Orange tubes of trumpet vine, pink-tipped brushes of mimosa, filaments sweet as what I concocted in bottles from a perfume kit as a kid. Green felt seed pods of magnolia from which spring tiny hooks like wires, pine cones, maple burrs. My husband's hands tab the keys, dicing white and black. My ears arrange it as music. Outside are birds ushering us in. Okay. Now I all right. So I usually read from sheafs of papers. I very rarely read from a book, but I thought, well, I really should this time, right? Hold it up. So I can't see anything, and all my little Post-its are falling out, but that's okay. All right, so most of you know that my husband is a jazz composer and pianist. And so that's in some of the poems. And of course, since I ended on birds at the end of the last poem, I'm knitting these poems together, a la Bonnie. So this poem is about birds, sort of. I moved to the South in 1997, and this poem takes place in my backyard in Memphis. And it's really a poem based on the properties of juxtaposition. So I lay one element against another. So you will be confused in this poem. It is disjointed. It does seem to leap from one point to another. that's intentional. Anyway, let's see. The title, Hour of the Cardinals, is meant to refer not only to the religious figures, but also the beloved redbirds, as we call them in the South. In that old house, we had a huge, almost life-sized charcoal and acrylic painting of a horse. And it was actually painted on feed sacks, literally feed sacks that have been made into these panels. So that's in this poem. Okay. Hour of the Cardinals. A judge from Tupelo tells me tankers, this is a true story, this really happened. A judge from Tupelo tells, at a dinner party, he told me this story. So it's different from here, Memphis. A judge from Tupelo tells me tankers piss dioxin past the shotgun shacks. Done eat the asphalt white. Drive till it's empty is what they told. Sparrows come through portals in the fence's chain link windows. Colic means inconsolable, my sister tells me. The Pope knew about the gassing of the Jews. He turned like an eggplant when he died, all black. In my dining room, a horse comes through the wall, charcoal scratched on the surface of whitewashed feed sacks. At 5 in the winter, they come, 6 or 7, red feathered in the boxwood, for sunflower seeds, a heat's compression soaked into the cobbled face of a flower. Abuse travels inside like the shadow of a ricochet. LaWanda left with her girlfriend for one of the Carolinas. She emailed to tell me she'd seen the sea. I'm actually still in touch with LaWanda, who worked in the dry cleaners, actually. You shouldn't be friends with me because God knows you'll end up in a poem and I'll be talking about you in a reading. She's a great person and she loves poetry. I had no idea when I wrote this poem that I would end up in one of the Carolinas. All right, where am I going next? Oh, high drama. Okay, I like high drama. If you don't, you probably should turn around and make your way to the exit or something. Anyway, I'm a criminal minds aficionado. Hi, Catherine. So anyway, I spent some time in a little residency at the Carson McCullers house in Columbus, Georgia. And I walked around that neighborhood a lot. I took at least 2 walks a day. And in the evening as well, it's beautiful, kind of 1920s bungalow neighborhood. But I became fascinated by and haunted by a crime spree that happened there in the 1970s. And I read a book when I was there by a journalist about this. So there's a character in this poem called Carlton Gary, who at that time, when I wrote the poem, was on death row. But in the poem, since we like to lie, we're writers, right? I speculate on the real killer, the identity of the real killer, and also his motivations. I promise some happier poems after this. In this neighborhood, it wasn't Carlton Gary, dapper, teeth white and even, but black-skinned, who bit and strangled 7 old women, but someone's son who spilled a bloody nary on his madras shorts at the club, whose crooked teeth crowded his mouth when he smiled to apologize. He was the guy who jogged at night. The bite impression was never introduced at trial, was kept from the defense. June brings the swelter but wafts cinnamon magnolia, gardenias, sugars. Through pines, woodpeckers drag their reds. Lawns plush with fescue, hum with sprinklers. Carlton Summers, on death row, questions bubble. DA, defense, judge drove their convertibles to the clubhouse by the river. Hedges are shaped, clipped. The real killer's grandmother smelled of powder. Lipstick ran spider legs around her mouth. One bloodied woman was left, the coroner let slip, with a pine cone tucked inside her. Okay. All right, this next one is much more cheerful. Well, of course, even though it's about beauty, it does have elements of the sublime. So, which means it has the doubleness, the reality, the 50-50. Anyway, this poem is called Refuge, and in it I mention hummingbirds' migration, also different kinds of butterflies. This is a reference, very pointed reference to the cover, with the monarchs on the cover. And I also mention blue morpho butterflies, which are the iridescent blue ones. And in this poem, where's Josephine?
Yeah.
All my Buddhists, perk up. In this poem, there are two monks making a sand mandala, which they're going to toss, of course, destroy once they finish it. They're going to dump it into the Mississippi River. So this is longer and a little longer and more meditative. Refuge. Most of what we see in Tennessee are ruby-throated, the color of a red lollipop. Globes hold sugar water where hummingbirds feed their way south. Even butterflies are nomadic. Driven through Mexico, car wheels slip through a crush of monarchs. In Brazil, people step on wafers, morpho everywhere. Wings thin as paper prayers, so many crowd the flowering trees, they crack the branches. Above the forest canopy, blue nails float. Thousands of wings blink, metallic, so pilots in flight see their blue silk. Above the Mississippi, a cloud cliff. Its pink, a high iceberg hangs, a turning pedestal to light. A pair of orange monarchs fly attached. Their bodies are spindles that touch. One fits its wings inside the others. I creep up where they land, pulsing together. A pressing slides between them, a fluid like tears or the sticky nub of lily stigma, petals flecked black, stamens shivering, pollen. Yes, you just did hear about butterfly sex. Okay. Visiting from Bhutan, two monks plan to throw the sand from their mandala into the river. They map the Buddhist universe. Sands in jars heighten to fuchsia, goldenrod, egg blue. The lamas sit close as if playing chess, holding long tubes, tapping along a metal cap, the kind pastry chefs use. So a dribble of sand, thin as the vein in an hourglass, an ink of grain spills. Together, they edge a fluted border like a doily. Watered grass green borders the border's orange and yellow petals. Inside, drizzled clouds, prayer wheels, tiny shells. the monks have left time's bridge, that reining in the hourglass, attachment. But I beat my heart on stones, a river running over. In this world, a garter snake, thin yellow ribbons moving in its back, pulls into its mouth the hind leg of an immobile toad. Yes, I really did see this. I stoop to watch. The snake disgorges. The toad hops forward. From his leg, 2 sores ooze. Like my skinned knee as a kid, where my mother painted a mercurochrome rabbit. A yellow jacket lights at the blood the mouth has left. Okay. Okay, I have 3 more poems. And this is, my mother really did, I was talking to a friend the other day who said that her mother definitely never hugged her, kissed her, or, did anything sort of when she scraped her knee or anything. So my family was plenty dysfunctional. I wouldn't be standing here, right? But, but my mother really did, if I got a scrape on my knee, she really would comfort me and try to paint a little mercurochrome rabbit on it. So this is really fun for me to read because, one, I've written a lot of my poems about my mother, but also there are people in the audience who are dealing with mother issues. And also because I made a lot of stuff up in this poem, which is really fun, because people are never sure whether you lived through that or ended up, well, I have to tell you most of the time I did live through it. But this I made up stuff. So it's called Golden Moon Casino. And it's actually set in a casino where I went with my husband on a gig. I have only been actually to 2 casinos in my life. My family do not gamble. They're not gamblers. And I'm not a cocaine addict, or never was. But the speaker is. And so when I was actually in this casino with my husband and having his usual gig downstairs, Misty in the back knows all about that, of course, if you're married to a musician, you don't go to all these gigs. So I preferred to stay in the hotel room, taking advantage of this fabulous bathtub. The bathtub was unbelievable. It was huge. It was obviously part of the fantasy of the room, right? The gambling. But everything else about it was incredibly uncomfortable. It was like a hospital bed. They obviously didn't want you up in your room. They wanted you downstairs on the floor. Anyway, also it was fascinating to me because the room was decorated based on the theme Golden Moon Casino. So there are all these patterns of circles and moons, etc. And I love patterns, so here we are. I should have been a decorator. Then I might have an IRA. Golden Moon Casino. In the tub, bubbles sparkle and hiss. I sniff orange and neroli, turn my body that warms like a baby. On this hard mattress, buttoned into pockets, I once cut powder lines. The floor's blue ground floats yellow circles. Gold drapes expose the fish tank of the parking lot. A window seat narrows, made for robots, tilts forward as if the whole room could lift. Curtains pierced like shower liners rattle across a porthole onto Alabama pines. My family jams circles into slot machines. Oz is here, drawing his curtains. I laid my head on my mama's stomach. I want you to die in my arms. Then I'll wait for you, she said. On the phone, I told her I loved her, said, I'm coming back early. She broke 2 syllables, you are into a question. The words rose, opened like a bubble, planetary, a circle in which she knew that O in the word love was meant for her. I have this distressing passion for complexity. I'm up at 5 in the morning and I'm already analyzing everything and my husband says, do you have to start? It's 5 a.m. the minute I wake up. So this is the most complex poem. And so you have to forgive me. But did you ever see the movie Lone Star? You ever see that movie? It's a great movie, John Sayles movie. Yeah. And it's got different plots. It's got 3 different sort of major threads of plot. And of course they all come together at the end. Somehow I don't think this poem will ever be quite as popular as that movie, which I have a copy of, DVD. But it does have these different threads of different levels of narrative. Okay. Everybody knows that we live in a cabin in Black Mountain, and there's a huge cattle farm behind us. So the cattle farmer, of whom I'm extremely fond, but won't mention because in my next book, more about his family history is revealed, and I don't want to be sued, so I'm not going to say anything. These poems are mostly, from before, but the book I'm working on now and hoping to finish in the next year, it's all about North Carolina. Anyway, so this cattle farmer put 2 cows into his yard so that he wouldn't have to pay the taxes on it as a yard property, but rather as agricultural land. Now, honestly, it looks like a pasture. I mean, only a tax guy would want to charge you for, it's not like an English lawn or anything. What else? There's this fantastic theorist, Rupert Sheldrake, who's a biologist, botanist. Oh, great, only in Asheville would I get nods from people in the audience. Oh my God. I know, I have to say that as I stand here with an actual huge, from my point of view as a poet, huge audience on a day like this, I think I did do the right thing, being completely irrational and moving here, like so many of us. So Rupert Sheldrake is well known for his hypothesis on morphic resonance, which is like a shared consciousness among species. But in this poem, I make good old Rupert Sheldrake, who's a Cambridge University type, British, into the cattle farmer. I also take a friend. I have a friend in the audience, and this poem is for her. But since I have a poem, an early poem I wrote years ago, and a friend threatened to sue me, but she didn't know it was published, I've learned not to disclose people's identities. But anyway, I have a friend in the audience, and this poem's about her. And I include in this poem reference to a fairy tale about 7 swans, 7 brothers who get turned into swans. And the sister has to do tasks to turn them back into men again. So that's the fairy tale is collated into the poem. And there's a speaker who's walking and observing beside the cattle farm. Also, this friend in her real life, which comes into the poem, she lived in a household with herself, 7 brothers, a mother, a father, and a stepmother. So they all live together. So that's all in the poem. Okay. Morphic fields. A sheet of sparrows breaks, each bobs for seed. Sheldrake tells us why they move as one. Bird calls hang in trees, cheeps, a toss of pitches. a cardinal's red dash through winter's gray nets. My friend wanted to knit like the swan girl, green nettles thread into sweaters, to turn her brothers from swans into men again. Their beaks carried her, suspended in a net hammock over the sea. A king found her. She kept silent to keep her brothers alive. The gunsmith's hound spends his days, hot days, on a tarp, slung for shade in his pen. Today he's warm inside their trailer. In the trailer park, white Monopoly block houses flock. Cows in the fields like plastic miniatures hunk and low. Horses' heads dip, rhythmic, as they walk, draped in blue blankets. Spools of hay fit nooks in the red barn. In the end, it's always the stepmother. Sheldrakes tricked the taxman. You can't call it a yard if twin Angus wander. Now it's part of the farm. With 2 cows, who can argue? The 7 swans wore crowns, though, as they flew her through the dark. Her real stepmother never wore clothes. And her own mother never left the household of 11. Nettles tore her fingers. Perhaps they bled to stain all cardinals red. Okay, I know my last poem is here somewhere, hiding. Let's see, what is it? This one is very short, and there's a Wally Stevens joke at the end, which is, I'm hoping Mike will get. And this was written in my friends Jan and Tom's living room when my husband was doing one of those jazz in the home salons, recitals, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so it's called At the Piano. Love is the wind that hurries through all our lives and like the leaves spins, base the sky blue. The sax player is careful with my eardrums. My husband stabs at the keys and roils them into sound, tilts his head, sways over the long steps of black and white. Into this room leaks the honey of late sun. His blues fog the mountains. In their dips balance the late day's teacups. Thank you. Fun because like Joyce has all these watercolors and there are all these teacups in them, and so I just have to mention that. So I'm here if you want to come and harass me, and any of my students are free to critique any of my poems or ask questions like, who was the, anyway. Okay, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it, and thank you to all my supporters.